In this episode of the Project Management Podcast, we welcome Oliver Lehmann to talk about project business and project business management. Hello and welcome back to the Project Management Podcast at pm-podcast.com. This is episode 447 and I'm Cornelius Fichtner. Thank you for being here. Today we are going to talk about project business and project business management. And if you have no idea what that means, then welcome to the club. I had no idea myself what any of these terms meant when I heard them for the first time. But now I do, thanks to Oliver Lehmann. Oliver wrote a defining book on the topic called Project Business Management, Best Practices in Portfolio, Program and Project Management. In addition to that, he also founded the Project Business Foundation at project-business.org. And he is on the program today to give us an introduction to project business and project business management. You will learn what project business is all about. That, surprise, roughly 50% of all the projects that are currently being undertaken in the world are part of project business. Yes, you heard that right, 50%. We also talk about the skills that we project managers need to answer project business challenges, and you'll come away learning about the number one thing that you should pay particular attention to when you are involved in project business management and why. And since we are talking about project business today, allow me to remind you that I not only offer project management training for individuals, but also for corporations, for businesses. So, if you are looking to provide project management training for your company, then please visit pm-podcast.com/corporate to see what I offer. Let's talk. And now, enjoy the interview. Hallo Oliver, herzlich willkommen zurück beim Project Management Podcast.
Hallo Cornelius.
Yes, as always, when I have Oliver Lehmann on the line, we start this in German and everybody freaks out and then we switch over to English. Hello, Oliver. Welcome back.
Yeah, your Swiss German is, well, you speak good German. Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to go there.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you, in all this COVID-19 craziness that's going around the world, unfortunately. Yeah, so before we begin, what can our listeners expect to learn from our discussion today that will help them manage and lead their projects?
Let's split your listeners into groups. One group is people who work either as contractors, maybe freelancers for customers, or they work as employees of a contractor company, manage projects for paying customers. And I think what they learn will be slightly different to what those will learn on the other side, who do customer side, the same projects, customer side, who work on the customer side and who have to manage suppliers, and not just one or two suppliers possibly, but often complex supply networks with maybe hundreds of organizations in that. What can they learn? They can learn, just both of them, to look at the business aspect on project management as well. And not so much business aspect, meaning projects supporting a business, but projects being the business. When the project becomes the business and they have to look at other things than an internal project manager would look at. Another thing we talk about will be education of project managers. Project business management means they need different education. And that's one of our biggest shortcomings at the moment. We don't have enough education for that. Also, a term that I like very much here is business acumen. We will talk about business acumen, rarely talked about in project management.
Mm-hmm. Let's go back to the basics. Let us start with the term project business. Project business, how do you define it?
There's a traditional view on project management that it's happening somehow internally in an organization inside the protective walls of the organization. Now, project business means we are breaking through these walls. These walls are no more there, can no more protect the project. We have at least two parties. One party is the contractor, the other party is the customer, and they ideally work together for the good of the project. Often they don't work together very well, but that's something we'll discuss later. And sometimes you find it's not just two companies involved. It may be hundreds of companies involved when we get complex supply networks. And many projects are like that. And one thing we can see is there is a strong trend towards doing projects in a cross-corporate fashion with many, many corporations involved. And this brings new challenges to people on both sides.
Would you happen to have an example for us from everyday life that would illustrate this project business concept?
Everyday life is very simple. Your family makes a decision. We want to have a new house. And when the Fichtner family decides upon that, then you have an internal project. Maybe you decide your wife is taking care for the project, so you have an internal project manager. You may have, as a family, something like a project charter, which describes that, or maybe the house will have a name and a number, project number, and all those things. That's internal project management. Now you make a decision to give parts of this house, or maybe the complete house, turnkey, into someone else's hands, say a construction company. And now that the construction company decides, okay, we will do the project for the Fichtner family, your family made the decision, we accept the price that we have to pay for the house. You have a contract with this construction company. You already have a second project at the same location, in essence. The construction company has a customer project. Some say customer facing or external facing project. They have a customer project and you have an internal project, and all that together, this is already project business. That's the most simple example that I know. Mm-hmm. It could be just some work to be done inside the project that is outsourced, or it could be the entire project, turnkey projects. Yeah? It's all project business.
So if I understand this correctly, if I go to that construction company and tell them, build me my house, what I'm actually buying from that company is, yes, the end result is the house, but I'm buying their project management capability so that they do everything that they need to do on the project side to, in the end, have delivery of the house to me.
At least that's your expectation.
Yes.
Whether they will meet that is another question.
Yes, I've heard a few horror stories of people buying and building houses. Yeah. And so
independent of the industry, you hear them in all industries.
Right.
But that's project business. Parts of project work, or maybe the entire project, is given by one organization to another organization. The first one is the customer. The second one is the contractor. And by the way, the contractor may not do all the work alone by themselves. They hand some work over to a subcontractor. And you begin with the supply network. Maybe the construction company has electricians and has other handicraft people working for them. And it's not just one company doing your house now, building your house now. You have there maybe 10, 15, 20 companies there. Gardeners make your garden. Yeah? Some other people build a garage for you, something like that. And that's also part of project business.
And within the subcontractors, this could go on, right? So the gardener may need to reach out to an arborist and bring in the arborist to help with all the trees because he doesn't have the specialty, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
so
exactly.
What is then the opposite of project business? Is it simply an internal project?
An internal project done with internal resources.
Okay.
That's the opposite. For the big associations that we have out there, PMI, Project Management Institute, IPMA, International Project Management Association, that's their understanding what a project is. It's something internal, and they focus very much on that. And that's why we launched last year the Project Business Foundation, because the other project managers really find a home in the big association. So to give them a home association as well, where we not only talk about project management, but talk about project business management.
Yes. And so here is my call to action for all our listeners out there. If you have just heard, man, that's what I do, that's exactly the type of project management that I do here, then the Project Business Foundation is your home. So please go ahead and stop by at projectbusiness.org. I think there's a hyphen in there, right? It's project-business.org.
Correct.
And take a look at the Project Business Foundation. So much for the definition of project business, but there is also project business management. That's PBM. What is PBM? How do you define it?
When you do project business, you need someone to manage it. And there are two sides to be managed. One side is project management side, very traditional as we all know it. And the other one is business management. And again, business does not mean here we do the project to support a business. The project is the business. We do, when you go book shopping, you are in book business. Or when you're selling books, when you're writing a book for sales, then you're in book business, food business, and so on. We have so many different businesses, and so we have project business. And in all these fields, you need managers. I wrote 2 books, and there were managers in the publishing organization. There are managers on, say, Amazon and some other bookstores and book dealers. And wherever you look, you'll find managers there. And we have the same in project business. We need managers to handle the project business. And these are obviously project business managers. And what they do is project business management. It could be in the hand of a project manager. And I think that's the most natural function to do project business management. But I also saw organizations where it's more salespeople who do project business management. They sell the project to a customer, then they hire a project manager to do that, and they are the project manager's sponsor, looking at the business side as well. I don't care who really is doing that, but someone should do that.
I may have just come up with another example. You know, you mentioned the book business, right? So you're in the book business. But to bring it maybe a little bit closer to what we do as project managers, everybody knows what a consultant does, right? Consultancies are everywhere. You know what you get. You go to them, you buy their consulting, you buy their expertise to come in and help you with a problem that you have and help you get over it. And when we talk about project business and project business management, you go out to somebody who is specialized in delivering projects for you. They don't necessarily are a consultant, but they are project managers like we all are, and they have the abilities and the capabilities to manage your project for you. And that's what they're selling you. Is that about right?
That is part of project business. Right. Another part could be training.
Yes.
Think of trainers who help people do better project business. So what we have is a practitioner side, and what we have on the other side is an expert side, where we have people who are really practicing project business, but they are experts in that, and they can help others do better project business. We don't have enough experts in that. That's another big thing. The number of experts in the world is just a handful. I know 6.
That's not many.
That's a bit more than it's 2 hands. 2 hands.
Almost. You need 2 hands, yes.
You need 2 hands for 6.
What interests you personally about project business and project business management? What gets you excited about it?
First of all, that's where my roots are. I come from project business. I come originally from automotive and processing industries. I did certification projects for process certification, not people certification, process certification. If you want to sell a process to a supplier of, say, BMW, just around my corner here, your process needs to be certified by BMW so that the suppliers can use that. So I had to go into BMW and get the process certified to allow suppliers use it. And it was also equipment business, setting up equipment in production lines. So that's really the world I know, that the world that I come from, doing projects for paying customers. I was also on the other side, on the purchasing side, and purchased project work for our organization. I think in the second part, I wasn't very good, by the way. And the reason is, again, no one taught me to do that. But I still believe I was better than anyone else around because they were also all uneducated in that. Yeah. So I did for the time, fairly good job. Today, I know it much better. I would know much better how to do that. But by that time, this was the situation. That's one thing. It's just back to the roots for me. The other thing is I see a shortage in experts in this field. When I look at things like, PMP preparation, the thing that you do, the thing that I do, is quite a number of players on the market meanwhile. And often you find yourself just in price competition. There is no such thing as price competition in project business management. There is only value proposition. You can propose value of your training or consulting work to a potential customer, and they may say it's worth using that or it's not worth using that. But there is no one out there who tries to turn your price down and bring your price down using a lot of competition. And I prefer the value world over the price competition world, as most people do, I think.
And in addition to all of that, you also wrote a book about the topic. What is the title of the book, and who is the target audience?
The book's name is Project Business Management, and the target audience is everyone who is in this field as a practitioner or as an expert. But it's not a book for an academic, not predominantly, a book for an academic audience. It's written for normal people, normal English, lots of examples, lot of storytelling in it. And I think many of the stories are stories that the audience will be able to relate to, because most people in project business have their stories to tell. When I sit in the evening in the hotel together with people from project business, everyone has to tell some stories. And honestly, most of them are true horror stories, as you said earlier.
And you said the book is aimed at everybody who does work in project business. And let me take a quick sidestep here, because maybe our listeners aren't aware of that. Over 50% of you are in this business. A few weeks ago, as part of the Project Management Podcast, I sent out a one-question survey. And in this one-question survey, I asked, what type of project are you currently managing? This was in preparation for this interview here. And you had three possible answer choices. Answer choice one, I'm working on a customer project. That means my project is performed under contract for an external paying customer. Choice number two, I'm working on an internal project, and my project is therefore performed to meet the needs of a requester inside my organization. And we also had a third option, the other, the setting of my project is different than that. We got a total of 399 responses for that, and 48%, so almost half, said, I am working on a customer project. I am, in essence, working in project business. Only 45% said it's internal. So, give or take a few, it's 50-50. Right, so there were 6% who said, this is completely different what I'm doing. But of the remaining, this is pretty much a 50-50 split. I believe, Oliver, you also did a few surveys like that, and you came up with very similar numbers, right?
Yes, I did 3 surveys over time with that, more like a longitudinal study.
Yeah.
And over time, the project business side was growing and the internal side was shrinking. I also asked people 3 years ago, what is your observation in your own organization? Is the tendency more towards make or buy decisions? Is it more towards make or towards buy? And there was a very, very clear response. It's more towards buy. Things that have been made by organizations themselves maybe 10 years ago are now bought from outside the organization. So if I look at the buyer side, there's more purchasing today, more outsourcing done today than in the past. And it's a strong trend. I see the same trend on the contractor side. It's more project managers who do projects as profit centers than just internal projects. So they confirm each other very much. It's both sides of the fence, of the interface that we have here. I think there is a strong tendency. And that's another interesting thing, because it means that we need different management approaches. The classical management approach in a project is we are inside the protective walls of our organizations, and there we can act more or less freely. We have a cross-functional project. Now we have a tendency towards cross-corporate projects. We need connective leadership for that, a total different form of leadership. We have leaders on contractor side. We have leaders on customer side. If they work well together, we can have a great project together. If they don't do that, if we have problems with egos or with different cultures or with different business interests, the project will suffer, maybe fail from that reason. And by the way, it's the number one reason why customer projects run into troubles is different business interests. Number two, also survey. Number two was different cultures. And number three was big egos.
Is this the same whether we're talking about project business or internal projects? Do we have the same reasons here, or do we have different challenges, different concerns that are specific to projects that are managed under the heading of project business?
I think it's different to internal projects, but the borderline is a bit softened. It's a bit blurred. The reason for that is that we have a phantom in organizations. The name of the phantom is the internal customer. Mm-hmm. Another name for this phantom is internal profit center, that different departments and projects and business units are defined as profit centers and not as part of a universal organization, of an overarching organizations. They are expected to act independently. And then you find something like the business interest of the business unit or something like that. I think it's a phantom. There's only one customer, and that's the customer who brings money into our organization. The external border of the organization, that's the one where we have customers and contractors. So I think in theory, it should be specific, but there are some, I wouldn't say questionable, but not so good management practices where we transport this external problem into the organization. Whether this is very intelligent is another question.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned money just a moment ago. How important is it to make a profit if you are the project manager of an internal project versus a project under the heading of project business?
In an internal project, you don't make profit. You have a cost center. The internal project is a cost center. You create cost. And if you look at project management, traditional project management, we have things like cost management as a discipline. We don't have profit management or something like that as a discipline in project management, because that's project business management. Now go to the other side. Go to the project manager on contractor side. For the project manager on contractor side, you have three big goals. One is you want to have a happy customer, of course. You need the customer happiness because this means less conflicts and maybe a reference customer for the future and so on. The next thing you need is profitability. You don't want your project to make a loss. There's a third thing which is often overlooked, and that's liquidity. It's about the cash flow. When you work for a customer in a project, it is very likely that you lay out money for the customer. What if this money comes back late? What if the money does not come back at all? If you don't get paid it or from whatever reason? We are in Corona crisis, and we will see a lot of customers go bankrupt in the next couple of weeks, possibly months, because just of the economic situation we're in. By the way, we will also see contractors go bankrupt. It's a problem both sides share at the moment. How long will my business partner last? Will the contract partner be long enough in existence and in production to deliver my results? And for the contractor, will the customer be long enough in business to pay the money that I need to do further projects in future? On contractor side, I asked people running these organizations with maybe 10, 20, sometimes more projects done concurrently for various customers. I asked them, how many loss-bringing projects could you afford? How many projects can you afford with the loss so that they will not kill your organization? And the number is typically around 10%, maximum 10%. So as soon as you have more than 1 out of 10 projects in loss, the other 9 must bring a profit, of course, to pay for the loss. But as soon as you have more than 1 out of 10, you are on the way into insolvency. And companies don't go insolvent or rarely go insolvent because they are not profitable. They go insolvent because they are no more liquid. So liquidity is the other big thing. Mm-hmm. And that's different to an internal project measure. As an internal project measure, you don't have to care about liquidity, profitability. And as you don't really have don't really have a customer, just this phantom of an internal customer. So you don't even have that. What you have is I call them internal requesters. You want happy internal requesters as well. But it's still not the same as the external customer. Yeah.
Right. So
external customer is justification of your existence.
You want a happy customer. You want to make profit with your project. Yep. And you want to make sure that on top of the profit, the money has to keep coming. So you have to send out invoices and get these invoices paid and all. This sounds like high risk business.
It is high risk business for all parties involved, for the contractor side as well as for the customer side. And again, we have a problem with poor education because we don't have the people to manage this risk. In addition to project risk, you have business risk. You have 2 areas of risk. And by the way, there's a third one now, and that's legal risk. What if courts don't come together anymore to remedy your case? That's a big topic at the moment. People go to court, they sue a contractor or a customer, and the court is not able to pick it up and resolve it because they don't convene, the judge and the court doesn't convene.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can see another complexity and a high risk area. And when we earlier talked about building the house, go out to a contractor, the contractor rents a gardener, the gardener needs to get the arborist, and the arborist needs to bring in somebody because he doesn't have enough resources. So we're talking, a supply chain that gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. How do you manage that as the project manager from the project business delivery organization?
That's a very good question. Personally, I prefer in our world the term project supply network. I don't think we have this orderly supply chain
I see.
As you find it in manufacturing. Yeah. What we have is very complex networks, and they are also very, very opaque, very hard to understand. Just by coincidence, I was in automotive 25, 30 years ago when modern supply chain management began. By that time, a typical structure for an automotive company was to do the majority of work, maybe 95%, in the own factory. And here and there, they had a supportive supplier. In German, we had a word for that, verlängerte Werkbank. That's the extended workbench. So at that time, what we had an extended workbench here and there. By the way, if you look into the PMBOK guide, procurement management, that's the concept of the chapter with project procurement management, extended workbench here and there. Then what happened was that some people brought change in turning the extended workbench into so-called system suppliers. The system supplier is a prime contractor who has subcontractors. So the amount of work they did, the product they delivered to the production facility was more complex and they got more responsibility in that. And the driving forces by the time were ISO 9000 so that customers and contractors could agree on a joint quality management system. It was EDI, electronic data interchange between organizations. It was from Japan coming lean production, Toyota production system. And it was some very visionary people there who brought this thing forward. And out of these system suppliers, the next step was supply chain management, which means the supply chains in manufacturing and to a similar degree in service, they are very well engineered. I can go to a supply chain manager at BMW and ask them, do you know what the fourth tier supplier somewhere in France maybe will be doing next month on the 15th at 10 o'clock in the morning? And they normally, not in Corona time, of course, not in coronavirus crisis, but normally they know that. And they know how this product that is created there will go over the higher tiers, one after the other, come nearer to the production than when it will be in production and at what quality. It is all designed. They know who is part of that. They have software for that. They have infrastructure for that. They have education for that and qualifications and all these things. They know that. They have people, they have literature. Yeah? So they have this knowledge. Now today in project management, we are in a very similar situation. You described it with a house. We have the same in software development. We have the same in software implementation, supply networks, and no one really knows who is all part of that. When will they do what work? It is intransparent. It is not engineered at all. Yeah? It is unpredictable what will happen there. And if you look at major projects, mega projects, when they fail, what really has happened there? This is the number one root cause why they fail. So we have to take care of that.
So far, we have focused primarily on the executing side, the project manager who does the project business, the companies that offer project businesses. But what about if I'm the customer in a project business environment? What are some of the things that I, as the customer, would have to look into and consider?
If you are the customer or if you work as an employee for the customer, number one consideration is you bring strangers into your project. You should know who that is. You want to know who you're going to work with. Mm-hmm. I had one example where an aircraft manufacturer, there are not that many in the world, had a subcontractor in a project. And after a while, they found out it's not just some kind of company. It was 100% daughter of their most important direct competitor. And it took them a while to find that out. And it was very shocking for them to find out their big project, their lighthouse project that they had by the time, they had their direct competitor as a subcontractor in their project. So this is the number one thing to look at. You want to know who is part of that. Yeah. What people are in there. Project business is different from, say, book business, for instance. I go into a book shop or I order it online, get the book delivered or take it home, however you do it. And that's it. That's the whole business. Project business means you are linked with your contractor for months, maybe years, and you get more and more dependent on your contractors over time. Contractors can do a lot of nasty things with you. So you want to know, are they trustworthy enough? Because you have to trust them. It's not just about finding the cheapest one. The other question is, how good is it to work with them? How do they communicate? How do they cooperate? Will they see your business interests as their business interests? When they have to deliver quality, invest in quality, for them, it's just additional cost. For you, it's the quality of your product. Can you rely on them doing that? Yeah? Or will they go a different way? Are they prepared to go the extra mile for you? Yeah? We had some discussion recently in a social network about gold plating. Gold plating in a customer project means to go the extra mile for the customer. As a customer, you sometimes need a contractor who is prepared to do that. It's not necessarily a bad thing to do that.
You know, this is very interesting. I asked you this question in regards to tell me what the customer has to think about. But here's the thing. I also did a lot of work in project business. So I delivered project for my customer. And when you were talking about all these things that the customer needs to look at, even though you've looked at it from the customer, I immediately thought about, well, how did I do this? Would I go the extra mile? Am I trustworthy? Would I help the customer do this and that? Yeah. And it's very interesting because many of our listeners out there, to some, this may be completely new. And that's an indication, well, you're not in project business. You are primarily working as an internal project manager. If all of this is new to you and you have never heard of this or never considered it, that means you're primarily working on internal projects. Whereas the other 50% of our listeners, they'll go, this is my world. This is exactly what I do every single day. Thank you for bringing this to the table.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
has to.
When I looked at the website of the Project Business Foundation, I saw that there are 2 more groups that are mentioned there that are involved in this type of environment. They are the prime contractor and they are the experts. Would you please explain to us, what is a prime contractor? What is an expert? How are they involved?
Prime contractor is an interesting situation because you are at the same time a contractor and a customer. You are the contractor to the final customer, and you are the customer of the subcontractors. And by the way, a subcontractor can be a prime contractor again when there are one or more subcontractors. So this can go over several tiers. Yes, of course. Yeah. So prime contractor simply means you look into 2 directions. Sometimes prime contractor is a position where you can make an awful lot of money. All the others do the work. And you just have your hand open and take a share out of that. Reality that I see at the moment is mostly different. There is currently a discussion in Australia about that thing in construction, that there is a wave of insolvencies expected for prime contractors because they don't get the prices paid by government agencies that they need to pay the subcontractors. You're like the ham in the sandwich, and there could be a lot of pressure on you. So it can be a very satisfying place, and it can be a very dangerous place. You could say this risk situation, this high risk situation, you have it times 2. You have the high risk of the contractor and the high risk of the customer. Experts, trainers, consultants, academia, book authors maybe, almost no one out there. As I said, I think at the moment I see 6 people out there. One is a university professor. One is a guy who just has retired, a trainer colleague of mine who just went into retirement, so he's lost again. One is a British guy focusing on construction very much. So he's not really available for other industries. So there is a huge shortage. We need more and more experts, and that's part of the mission of Project Business Foundation, to bring experts on the marketplace, to give them something that they know about project business management, that they learn something about project business management, and that they have something like a logo and an acronym to show that to others. It's called ACE, ACE for Project Business Management.
You mentioned under the experts a university professor. Is that the gentleman out of Finland?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And here's the interesting thing. Yes. And here's the interesting thing. He wrote his book back in 2010, 2011? Yes. Something like that, right? So
2010.
Yeah. Project business as an idea, as a concept, has been around a decade, yet here we are for the first time talking about it on the Project Management Podcast. Why do you think this is? Is it such an underserved community? I mean, 50% of us are doing this.
I had some discussion how long it is around, a discussion with an archaeologist. I asked him, what do you think? Have there been something like customer-contractor relationships when the Egyptians built the pyramids? And he said, we cannot say for sure. They didn't have a monetary systems. It was all non-monetary. but it's quite likely that it was also already existent by that time. They can't really say. And I think the reason is simply they never asked the question by themselves. Why is it so exotic still? I think it is not shiny. If you want to look at the shiny world of project management, you look at internal projects. That's where you have strategic outreach, new products, new services, new development, whatever it is, and you change organizations. And if you like, you can change the entire world here, yeah, and bring something good to humanity. That's all the world of internal projects. It can bring you as a speaker to the World Economic Forum in Davos, where this is also discussed. Project business management is different. It's not shiny. It's about people who have the boots in the mud. Yeah, we are stomping through the mud. It's not this shiny, beautiful thing. It's no glitter around it. Yeah? It's about very basic things: happy customer, profitability, liquidity. Yeah? But if you don't care about that, the company at one point in time may no more exist on both sides, customers and contractors. Yeah. So we have to talk about that, and we have to talk about business. Yeah. An interesting thing is, by the way, when I was young, I'm 61 now. When I was young, it was the Americans who talked most about money. Meanwhile, I have the impression if there is a nation where people do no more dare to talk about money, it's the US, yeah. As it's a bit like money is something dirty, yeah. We are not there to only make money. We are not there to be greedy, but we have to talk about money. Otherwise, we will no more exist at one point in time. So we have to give it its correct place. It's not our justification to be in the world to make money, but we need it to stay in the world. Yeah, so we have to talk about that. It's talking about need. It's not talking about greed.
Let's come back to us, the project managers who are involved in all of this. On top of our project management expertise, skills, and knowledge, all of this requires additional skills that we project managers are rarely educated for or exposed to. Let's review a few of them. You already mentioned one of them earlier on, business acumen. How does that connect to project business?
Take the contractor side first. On the contractor side, we have these three big goals: happy customer, profitability, and liquidity. We have to balance them out. In a short-term perspective, if we don't want to have a happy customer, it's easy to be profitable because we can make a lot of money out of a project, yeah, and leave the customer unhappy. On a long-term perspective, happy customer and profitability go hand in hand. You need the profitability to be able to make the customer happy, and you need the happy customer to win the profitable business as a reference customer. So it goes hand in hand in a long-term perspective. This understanding, and then add liquidity to that. This understanding, this is business acumen. What can I do in the project? What can I do in the business of the project to harmonize these three elements and make something out of that, which is good for the organization and good for the customer and maybe good for the environment, for the society or whatever you like. On the customer side, it's a similar thing. I recently had a project business healing day. That's what I do sometimes with organizations. I have a healing day where we talk mostly with customers. They invite contractors and we talk about the problems they have in their business. And it was a chemical company. And in this chemical company, they turn their contractors, they run their contractors into insolvency. Their behavior towards their contractors is so bad, and they need these contractors. Now, the problem is the project manager wants a good project. So the contractor is important for the project manager, and the project manager takes care of that. But then in the same organization, there are some people on purchasing side. They take the cheapest contractor. They don't care about the future of the contractor. They don't care about payment terms and payment rhythms, and they run their contractors into insolvency. That's business acumen on the customer side to make sure that your contractors are able to do their work for your project, to take care of them as well. So on both sides, what we need is to replace competing with completing. We have to make sure that they work together to complete the project instead of competing for little bits and pieces and costs and deliveries and whatever it is.
What about legal knowledge? How much legal knowledge is required for a project manager who's in the project business side?
I like to compare this with driving a car. Mm-hmm. Your teacher who gives you driving lessons is not a lawyer, but he has to give you a lot of legal knowledge so that you can make decisions when you drive a car, and you don't have the time with each little decision at each junction or each traffic sign. You cannot ask a lawyer what to do now. You need the knowledge right now, but you will need the lawyer when it comes to a court case. Someone sues you for having done something wrong in traffic, then you will need the lawyer. I think we are in a similar situation. We have to make micro decisions over the day, maybe 10, 20 more micro decisions, and each of them can have a legal impact. You have to write an email, and what you put in the email could have a legal impact. In the worst case, that this thing ends at court. It may be used as evidence against you or for your position. So you need a lot of legal knowledge here. And similar to car driving, things get more complicated. You came from Switzerland some years ago, I don't know, 20 years ago. I don't know how long you're in the US now. And when you came from Switzerland to the US, one of the first things you had to learn is US traffic law, which is to some degree different to European traffic law. One of the things I learned is when on the other side of the road, there's a school bus and the school bus is stopping, you have to stop too.
I didn't know that either. This is a totally... I just drove by and people looked at me like I was nuts.
So dangerous. We're in a
that only happened once, but still, you know, if you don't know these kind of things... How much did
you pay?
Nothing.
Nothing?
No, I just drove by and people looked at me strangely, but there was nobody there to stop me, and I moved on.
It's the things you need to learn.
I learned from that. So I see what you're saying, right? So if you're doing as a project manager in project business, you need to have not just a basic understanding of the legal aspects. You need to know a little bit more, because at every corner of your project, at every turn, you're going to have to make certain decisions that have to be legally sound to a degree.
There's another layer of complexity here. And that's that most project business is international business today. The contractor and the customer may be in different legal environments, which means that at least for one of the two parties, they have to act under foreign law. Mm-hmm. That's like driving a car in a foreign country. Mm-hmm. That's a very similar situation. So you could make errors in this other legal environment that you would not do in your own environment. And one of the two, if it's in two different countries, one of the two organizations at least has to act under foreign, maybe completely unknown law. And that's a normal situation now. So it's not just some legal knowledge. You have to have some knowledge about international law as well. And that makes it very difficult. We need education for that. It's a matter of education. Mm-hmm. Yeah? Switzerland is civil law. US is common law. That's two different legal worlds with huge differences in between. Common law people don't know very much about civil law. Civil law people don't know very much about common law, Anglo-American law. Yeah? So that's something we need to learn. Yeah? Yeah. And the school bus is a very simple example for that.
But it gets the point across. If you don't know, you don't know. And you will make a mistake and suddenly you're being stopped by the police. Or in this case, your customer is taking you to court.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the worst case. We always have to be aware. It is the worst case scenario.
It is, yes. So let me bring this to a close here. Please tell our listeners, what is it you feel that is the number one thing that they should pay particular attention to when they are themselves involved in project business management? And why is it that particular thing that they should pay attention to?
Number one thing is education. We need better educated people. And the reason for that is this high-risk business we are in. Project business is high-risk business for all parties involved. So we need people who understand the business. We need people who understand where the risks are, where the big challenges are, so that they can work around them or find solutions when they are in them. But they have to understand it. They should not be surprised by the things that happen in their project. And there's a business reason for that, and there's a project management reason for that.
All right. And dear listeners, if you can see yourself in this, if you go, man, this is my world, then once again, here's my call to action for you. Please stop by at the Project Business Foundation, which is at project-business.org. And if you'd be so kind, why not support Oliver by buying his book? The book is called Project Business Management, Best Practices in Portfolio, Program, and Project Management. Obviously written by Mr. Oliver Lehmann himself. You can find it on Amazon. Oliver, thank you so much for this really interesting and in-depth discussion of project business and project business management. We all appreciate it.
Cornelius, it was a big joy speaking with you about it. And come over to Project Business Foundation. Maybe join it, become a member, and help us grow project business management together. Thank you.
Oliver Lehmann is president of the Project Business Foundation and author on the topic of project business management. And that's it. Thank you very much for listening. Please visit pm-podcast.com for show notes, links, transcripts, and PDU information. Our email address is info@pm-podcast.com. And finally, we have this. Project management is a lot like dating. You smile a lot, you pretend to enjoy yourself, and you're always waiting for someone to call you back. Until next time.